Welcome, everybody, to the Multifamily and More Expert Series, where we dive deep into a specific topic with our expert guest in the area of real estate, mindset, or anything in between. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber, and my guest today is a three-time returning guest. He is the principal of Warrington Capital. He is a realtor in Southeast Michigan with the appropriately named Warrington Group. My friend, Grant Warrington. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, Jamie, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate that, as always.
Absolutely. I see a little COVID do going on here.
Yeah, cut my own hair. Yeah, I don't want to get too crazy and show everybody, but yeah.
Me too. I don't know if you could tell.
Yeah, you look good as always.
Anyway, all right, we'll dive in. So I wanted Grant to come on today because he went through recently during this time, COVID, or he's going through or just about done with an entire refi process, right? So we're going to talk about the deal, the strategy, and where he's executed that. But there are a couple of big obstacles that he faced in going through this refinance that I thought provided great insights for me, as well as then I wanted to share with all of you. So Grant, let's start with this. Let's talk about the deal. What is it? Where is it? What'd you purchase it for? And kind of what was the plan? So when you went into this deal, you were like, okay, we're going to buy it for this, and this is what we're going to do. What did that look like?
So yeah, we chased this deal for a while. We've owned it now a little over a year. This was a major value add. It needed completely everything, right? So we knew that getting into it. The great thing was it was right in our backyard. It's in Trenton, Michigan. That's where I live, born and raised. So we knew the property, we knew the deal, we knew what was needed, and we knew it had a lot of potential if we could get it for the right price. So that was kind of the goal. We bought it for $625 is what we bought. We bought it on a land contract. And we went to work for a year. We bought it January 2019, and we just went to work on it for a year and got it to a position where we could, we had increased the value significantly, where we wanted to, cash out, do a refinance, pay off the land contract, put some debt on it, and go from there and move forward now with the proceeds to make another purchase.
Okay. All right. So your plan at the beginning was to buy, rehab, get the leases up, get the rents up, stabilize the property, and then go through a refinance. What was your initial thought on timing? Did you think like right around now, or were you thinking it might be a little longer before you went through this?
We were hoping a year. The land contract, we had 28 months.
Okay.
So, we're probably 16 months into it. So we're fortunate. We have a lot of time. So, if something didn't go right, we could always pump the brakes and adjust. So that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to give ourselves enough time and options. We started this refi before COVID, and just happened to go through all of it. But, initially we thought, now's a great time. There's some good terms we're looking at. And we thought, why not? Because we want to move forward. And in order to do that, we needed some proceeds. So
Got it. So yeah, you mentioned you started the process pre-COVID, but you were in the process post-COVID. And I think that's ending the process post-COVID, and not post, but during. I think that's important because what we hear a lot of stories about is banks maybe drawn back a little bit on the original terms that they gave as things started to kind of crash down a little bit, right? The economy started to slow, unemployment numbers went up, rent collection at risk. At least, the initial thought was it could be as low as 60-70% rent collection, although I don't think that's really come to fruition just yet. But depending on how long this goes, who knows? So you ended and you finished within, but it didn't mean that you didn't face challenges of the whole COVID-19 thing, right? So I think it's important for you. You made a point about you have time. If you didn't get the terms you want, you could hold on it, but you didn't have to because you took some pretty cool action. I think that's what we're going to focus on. So let's talk about the first obstacle that you came across. And that is that you didn't quite get the appraisal you were looking for. So to walk me through that, what were you looking for? How far off were you? However you want to couch that, and what happened?
So we're looking at, this is in Trenton, Michigan. So we were, and I'm the owner, maybe I'm a little biased, but, I was thinking that Trenton would be around a 7% cap. If you're familiar with the area and you're familiar in the multifamily space, if you probably would agree with me if you're familiar with the area. So, I'm thinking 7%. The appraisal actually came back at 8.25 cap rate. So, I mean, to say it was off is an understatement. It was off by like $190,000, which was, I mean, I was disgusted. I mean, we worked on this for a year. We know the value. So it was really a huge hit. It was deflating, to say the least. But we had a lot going for us when I read the appraisal, when I went through it with my background and some things I had, knowledge of. Really,
Well,
I had a great opportunity to fight that.
let's talk about that. So what were some things that jumped out at you as, so people that get an appraisal, maybe this is a place where you can educate. What are some things that jumped out at you when you went through the appraisal that you kind of latched onto? Well,
first, I want to say too, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if the appraiser wasn't a stand-up human being. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I don't know. I don't know the appraiser. But I give them a ton of props for even listening to us and our arguments. Some people would possibly let ego get in the way and maybe would stick to their guns. This person did not. They listened to what we had to say. And it was a pretty solid argument. But as far as the appraisal, some of the things, they took some comparables. They compared our property to a property in Wayne. And if I went on city data just to try to prove my point, to prove that those two areas, Trenton and Wayne, are not the same. In 2018, the crime index was 276, I believe, average across the United States. Wayne was at 325. The lower the number, the better. So 276 is the average. Wayne was at 325. Trenton was at 77. So
a little different.
A little different. So, and they comped that Wayne building at 8%, and our property, or I'm sorry, cap rate 8% of that Wayne building, and our property was at 8.25 cap.
Where'd you get that data? Was it city data or what
city data? City data is where I got that. So, in a lot of people might say, well, that Wayne property, maybe it was, this type of a property. Well, the other thing is I happen to manage two buildings on that block, two apartment buildings in my previous position. I was a director of operations for a property management company in Southeast Michigan, and I managed two of those buildings. I knew the block well. I know what type of property this is. I know it well. So I knew that this is extremely far off, not even close, not even a close comp. It was also comp to a couple of other buildings, and long story short, I managed those. I managed the acquisition and rehab of those buildings for my former boss. So I knew him. I was there when he purchased the buildings. I went through and rehabbed the apartments. So, to compare those distressed, at the time of his purchase, those distressed properties with our just about fully rehabbed product was just way off, not even close. So that's some ammunition I had going into this, knowing that you're not comparing apples to apples here at all.
You did a market and say a market and an asset class comparison of the comps listed to yours. So let me ask you this real quick. Why didn't you just get, well, I guess you did. So the cap rate was the issue. Never mind. So the cap rate was the issue. They were comparing a market cap rate in a different market and the same asset class. It sounded like a kind of a B minus C plus type asset in both markets, but somehow looked at yours as being an even higher cap rate than the one in the high crime market.
They were comparing, their comps were distressed. So they were comparing distressed properties to our rehabbed property is really what they were doing.
Got it.
So, but I happen to know that those properties were distressed because I was part of the acquisition team. So I know I can look at these two buildings and say, these were distressed properties, $200,000 a piece were put into each of these two properties. And you're comparing them at the level where where they were purchased, highly distressed.
Well, what if you
compared to
didn't know that?
ours.
What if you didn't know that? Like, so they say you didn't have your background. And look, that's your competitive advantage here, right? You have a background in property management, knew those buildings, and you could make that comparison. But any thoughts, like if it wasn't you with this experience, what would you say to somebody if they got an appraisal that they felt was well off of, at least the cap rate is well off of where their market cap rate is? In this exact scenario, how would they know that those buildings or those assets it was being compared to were distressed? How could they find that out?
Well, I think it might be tough, but one thing I would do, and this is what I did. I went to citydata.com and I wanted to show the difference in the cities. Okay. So I wanted to show crime rate. I mean, when I gave you those figures right away, you said, wow. I mean, you could tell just like that, there's a problem. Those are not the same. Those are not the same cities. It's not comparable at all. Not even close. So that's one thing I could suggest to people to try and do. Maybe if you're out of state, or if you're don't know the market real well, maybe that might be a way to do it. But that would probably be my best suggestion.
Okay. So how does this end? So you go back to the appraiser, you say, hey, look, I'm assuming you took the paper and like just threw it at them, right? Like you crumbled it up like in a movie and just tossed it at them, right?
Yeah. We had we were working with local commercial capital, so they were very helpful. So what happened was, I went to them, Chad Hoffmeyer went to him and said, hey, here's the issue. He jumped on it. He was all over it. So I put an email together. I worded it, as politely as possible. Believe me, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I appreciate the appraiser. And I just said, here's the issues. I also tapped into my network too. And my old boss reached out to him and said, hey, I'm my property's being compared to the properties you bought that were distressed. And he said, absolutely not. Hey, he gave me some documentation supporting my claim. So we had that. So now we were armed with that. Chad Hoffmeyer also tapped into some brokers, some local commercial brokers here in the area, kind of told them and asked them, hey, what's your take on the market? And which was fantastic, because now you had two brokers that came up and said, we respectfully have to disagree with that 8.25 cap rate in Trenton. And, they told them what their opinion is. And, that's just the power of tapping into your network and networking. So I was fortunate. Chad had those connections. I had those connections. So really, we all came together and got this down. It was 8.25, and they brought it down to a 7.4 cap rate, which is great in my opinion. I think it should be a little less than that, but I'm not going to argue that. We said that's fair enough. That valued the building at $1,030,000 and change. So again, we bought it for $625,000.
But that difference, you're talking, what, probably $100,000 in difference in value between an 8.25 cap and a 7.4 cap.
Yeah, 190, I believe it was. Yeah,
oh, that's the difference between the two. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. They were saying it was worth 900,000. Is that my? Yeah. So I'm sorry. The difference between the 7.4 and the 8.25, is 130,000.
Right. I think the 7 cap would have gotten you to 190, right? So it's about 130.
Yep. Sorry.
Keep up with me, Grant. Okay. I mean,
you're quick. You're good.
Big
you're
brain.
A pro. You're a pro.
I can't help it. I just can't help it.
I'm glad you get dressed up for me too.
You're just this good. Where is it? This side. It's University of Michigan. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, people are going to appreciate that. Some won't.
I do. Yeah.
All right. So I think you articulated a couple of learnings going back to the point. City Data is great. Excuse me. The power of networking, which is what the whole multifamily more community is about, is building your network to leverage it. So if you haven't worked for a property management firm in the past, but you're an active member of communities like ours or others, you'll meet property managers who know people in that market, who maybe know that building or whatever. You leverage your broker. In this case, you mentioned Chad Hoffmeyer, local commercial capital, who's a friend of this community. So you leverage your broker, you leverage your commercial broker, you leverage your brokers, or the brokers that he has a network with, to come back with different valuation pieces. And you formulated a very good argument that you put in front of the appraiser. And to your point, I think you're being gracious, which is good. They were willing to hear it. But at the same time, I think the fact that you brought the ammo of people with credibility to an appraiser, he's not looking at you, or she's not looking at you as the one challenging it per se. It's, hey, all of these people with expertise are challenging my appraisal. Let me take another look. I think you loaded it up to make it almost, you have to take another look at this, right? You have to be able to adjust your appraisal in this case. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thanks. And I think, probably the present situation was taken into account for, and I don't believe that's fair, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's
no, you're not. I don't think you are. So I refinanced my own home right at the beginning of all of this, like before like a month or two ago, at the beginning of COVID. And it was written in the appraisal, like, not that my home was impacted by it, but it's like, oh, it was like a standard wording in there, like, COVID could impact the housing value. So that was at the early phase. I'm sure now that we're a month or two into it, appraisers are going to become a bit more conservative. So it's something to be mindful of for sure. So, all right, let's talk about obstacle number 2. So Grant Warrington gets through the appraisal issue, right? Doesn't pack it in and move away. He leverages his network. He brings in his broker, puts together a feasible argument, and gets the appraisal to where he thinks is reasonable, or he thinks is fair or doable. So we're good. Now you're moving forward with the terms that you originally were quoted. And of course, the bank just said, yeah, hey, no problem. We're going to continue on and give you the exact terms that you initially wanted. I'm sure that's what happened, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. And, keep in mind, this did take a long time. So, the bank quit doing loans for a while, and we weren't really, we really didn't know that till later on in the process. There was just a lot that went on. I mean, and I understand, because nobody really knew, especially a lender, what's going to happen. So everybody pumped the brakes. I understand it was, this was all new for everybody. So, I really don't want to, I'm not trying to point fingers or say, hey, this took too long or anything like that. It was a crazy time for everybody. So I understand.
Sure.
But yeah, the original terms, it was going to be 4.25% interest rate with no prepayment penalty. Now, that was huge to us. That's what we were really going after. It's a 10-year term, which 5 years of it is fixed at 4.25, and then it'll adjust for the next 5 years, or we can refinance out of it. Again, no prepayment penalty. It was a 25-year AM. That was huge to us as well.
And being amortization, right? 25-year amortization, right? Yep.
Amortization. Yeah, that'll keep the payment down. And
you weren't looking, and you don't have to disclose the dollar amount, but you weren't looking for 80 or 75. You were looking for a specific number, which put you at about what, like 77, 78% of the value, right?
Yeah, 800,000. Yeah, no, I don't mind. That's what we were looking for. So keep in mind, I thought the building was going to be worth $1,090,000, and I think if it wasn't for COVID, it would have appraised for that, possibly more. I really feel. So we said we only need 800,000. We're not looking to get as much as possible. So it was a fairly strong loan to value at that point. And at the 1,030,000, the 7.4 cap, we're at a 78% loan to value. So I thought, hey, great, we're still good. We still look great. We're under 80%. Everyone should be happy with that. Well, come to find out, the bank changed their mind, and the bank said, we're only going to give you 75% loan to value. So that number was like 760,000, somewhere in there.
So 30, 40 less than the debt you were expecting to get. Yeah.
Correct. So, a lot of times, and I think newer investors, us as a newer investor, we probably would have folded and said, okay, well, that's fine. We went through one obstacle. I guess we'll just put up with that. We had a lot of things going for us on this one. We had time. Our payment was $2,600 a month. and we had another, at least, over a year that we could ride out the land contract.
Mhm.
So, we thought, no, absolutely not. We're not going to do it for that amount. Like I said, the first loan we ever did, we did a blanket loan on a couple of single family houses, and the terms weren't great. Didn't know any better. Didn't know where else to go at that point. So we took those. But something we learned from that earlier experience is just because a lender says, this is X, this is what I'm willing to do, doesn't mean there's not someone else out there who's willing to work with you.
Yeah. And I love this next part for you, because this speaks to, again, relationships and being persistent, but also clear on your intentions around what you're doing with the refinance. So what happened? I mean, we talked about this obviously, but so tell me now. So you go to them and they say, hey, we're going to give you 760 in debt, 770, somewhere in that range. You're saying, I want 800 because you've got plans or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're at this impasse. So what happened next? You talk to the broker, and what goes on?
So I actually, at this point, it would take it so long. They put me in contact with the bank, just so we were all kind of communicating together, trying to get through this. Everybody wants the deal to close, so that wasn't the issue. It just took so long. So, we told them it's either 800,000 or we're going to walk. We're going to go look at someone else. We're going to go to another bank. We're going to stay with local commercial capital, work with them, find somewhere else to go. But, in talking to the lender, we realized that the committee that looked at the loan, I think possibly they overlooked it. I think this loan, went on so long during these times that possibly they overlooked, but they were just thinking we were going to get a cash out lump sum to ourselves. And the bank is concerned when that happens. In good times, it wouldn't make a difference. But in this time, they want to make sure they can keep their doors open too.
Sure.
This is a really serious time, whether people realize it or not, for banks. And what they were thinking is that we were just going to get a lump sum. Now, in their mind, they think worst case scenario, we're just going to use this money to pay down debt or do something like that with it, right? Well, that's not the case. We put together our, where we're going to distribute funds with this money, why we're refinancing now. We got some projects at the building going on that we want to do, and we also have another acquisition we want to make. So the committee really, really didn't notice that, see it. I don't know what the situation was, but just having those conversations, going back to the lender and saying, what are we missing? What can we do? What's the hang up? How can we solve it? Because we're not moving forward, and then once, I talked to him, told him, hey, I know it's only a difference of $30,000, but the $30,000 to the bank is probably not that much, but to me, it's a difference of my next acquisition or not. And he said, wait a minute, acquisition? Oh, you guys are going to buy another building? Yeah. And then that's where it all clicked. And he said, okay, put that down, send it to me. I think we can get this done. If that's the case, the committee really wasn't aware that you guys had these funds allocated to improvements. I told him we got a window improvement job we're doing at the building, rehabbing 6 units. We have our business plan all laid out. So
I love that. I love that. And I think, so it's a great tip that you should absolutely be open and communicating, not like you said, just kind of that blanket loan you took on the single families, just, oh, okay, that's the banks that they could do, they can do it. I mean, with two different entities in this entire refi process, you gave reasonable data that allowed them to change, their terms, essentially, like whether it's the appraisal amount and, or in this case, the financing terms, which is fantastic. So again, kudos to you. And I'm realizing as we talk about this building, and for those that want to go back and look at Grant's last interview, or 2 interviews ago, we did a debrief on this building, a deeper dive on it and how he acquired it. And it was the same story as how he's refinancing it, which is this strong resilience, this stick-to-itiveness, that really is sort of becoming your brand here, buddy. I mean, that's kind of what this building has been all about. Like you've been sticking to every aspect of it: acquisition, the reposition, and now the refinance. And you've created a nice deal for yourself, and now some capital that you'll be able to take out and continue to grow. So kudos to you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And it's also, I got to give my wife, Monica Warrington, credit too. She's, 50% on this team. So she's in it with me. So, I mean, I may be talking here, you and I, like it's just me, but that's not the case.
Well, we know it's her, and then there's you.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
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 That's it. You like to see yourself on camera more. We all know this. So
Yeah.
to that end, Grant, no, Monique is amazing. And I completely agree. She's the lifeblood of this whole thing. So, all right, Grant, tell the folks where they can get in touch with you, whether it's both on, to learn more about this, your multifamily business, or if they're looking to buy a house on your retail side. So where can folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I'm all over social media, but you can if you want to send me an email, warringtoncapital.com, contact us. You can send us an email. We'd love to chat there. Warrington Group Real Estate. If you're in Southeast Michigan, you're looking to buy or sell a home. That's where I'm at. You can check me out on Facebook, YouTube, or on Instagram. You can contact me at Grant Warrington.
Beautiful, perfect. For all of you watching, make sure you check that subscribe button down at the bottom here so you can get more and more of this content. Again, go back and watch Grant's other videos. Maybe we'll post them in here once you watch this. But Grant, appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on today, and best of luck with this one.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely. You are officially, they're watching you. Okay?
Ivan Waugh.
Stretch, pull the ears. Release some of that tension.
Oh, that's great. No, because I'm not doing any of that shit because it's going to be on your video outtakes like that one.
This could be. Dan, this is a good outtake. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go.